Welcome to this special interview from Monmouth Choral Society. My name is Claud Fullwood. I'm currently the co-chair of the choir, and I'm delighted to be sitting with our musical director, Stephen Kings. This autumn is an especially exciting time for the choir, as our November concert will be a large-scale production of Elgar's phenomenal work, The Dream of Gerontius. We're looking forward to the 22nd of November, where we'll be joined by Chepstow Choral Society, guest singers from the Monmouth area as well as Bristol, the Regency Symphonia Orchestra, and our three wonderful soloists, Susan Mars, Andrew Henley, and Alex Jones. Can you tell us a little bit about what this piece means to you personally?
Well, my relationship with it goes back quite a long way. As you may know, I grew up in Worcester, and I sang in a choral society in Worcester, sang Gerontius probably a couple of times as a teenager, late teenager, and then at university also. But growing up in Worcester, you can't get away from Elgar.
Right.
There's been a statue of him near the cathedral since 1981, and I was singing, taking part in the concert when that statue was, put there, and we put on a special musical event for it, as I recall. I can't remember which piece of Elgar we sang on that occasion, but, and it's very interesting. I was looking into this a bit. People may know that his father ran a music shop on the high street, quite near to the cathedral, and when his father retired, Elgar's brother Frank took it over, and it was called Elgar Brothers, the shop. It was at number 10 High Street, demolished in the 1960s to make way for a concrete shopping centre, which is also no longer there, to everybody's great relief. But I had piano lessons at the other end of the high street as a boy in a music shop run by the Austin family, and my piano teacher, Avis Austin, ran the music shop and taught piano lessons. So she was in some sort of way the successor to what the Elgars were doing at the cathedral end of the high street. But he was very much in evidence, and all the landscape that inspired him, Malvern Hills and the marshes around southern Worcestershire and places just outside Worcester, Broadheath, they were all part of my upbringing as well. So I had quite an early sort of connection in that sense. And Gerontius has been a piece that I've not only sung in, but then when I started working with choirs more regularly, worked as a pianist, playing for rehearsals, had to accompany rehearsals on Gerontius, and you learn it in a different sort of way then when you're actually accompanying it. And then more recently, conducting it as well. I'm very happy to be doing it again with Monmouth now. I think that it's a piece of music that as the years have gone by, decades have gone by, I always find myself going deeper and deeper into it in all sorts of ways. I mean, it's virtuosic composition. So as a student of composition, you can't help but admire the way it's put together. Okay. The emotional depth and height and breadth is awe-inspiring and impressive. The musical language is very riveting. And although whether or not one is a Catholic, which I'm not, the story has a very engrossing element to it, and because the questions about our ultimate destiny are true for everybody. We all have to ask these questions. Theme. Yeah. So yes, it means a lot to me in many ways.
So, I mean, you touched a little bit on how you go about accompanying it and how you approach it. How do you approach, as a musical director, directing three separate choruses and a full orchestra and your soloists? Can you talk us through a little bit about some of the challenges that you encounter as the director of Gerontius?
Well, I think that the disparate performing groups, that is definitely a challenge, and it's great that we have the collaboration of Chepstow Choral Society, and we have a semi-chorus coming over from Bristol. They will be rehearsed separately.
Yeah.
Chepstow are being rehearsed separately, which is very helpful for us with Graham Bull, doing their rehearsals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The soloists and the orchestra are professionals, and they have a very limited amount of rehearsal time. Really, it's we do it by the skin of our teeth. Really, they turn up for 3 hours on the Saturday afternoon, and they have to just get on with it. But they will be brilliant. The actual music, I mean, obviously, my job is to try to know every corner of it as well as I possibly can, which over the weeks that we're in now and leading up to the concert in November, more and more will be getting under the skin of it. One of the big challenges of this piece and of Elgar generally is that the tempo, the speed of the music, never really stays in one place for very long.
As a singer, I have noticed this.
Yes, it's sort of, it's not exactly mercurial. That's the wrong word for it. But it's seething. It's restless. It's changeable. It's responding very, very closely to the text and the emotions that are in the text. So when you're conducting it and you're trying to keep everybody, on the same wavelength, as it were, working out how to convey those changes of tempo in a way which is clear and responsive to the music, but also sort of hangs together. Because if you're too wild and you get faster, you get slower. If it's too wild, then there's no real sense of how everything moves forward, through the story. So I think that's one of the big challenges, is that fluctuating tempo. And also the musical score is extremely detailed in all the different aspects of how the music should be put across. So obviously you have the notes that people sing and play. You have how loud or soft it should be. You have what kind of attack the notes need, how they're sustained or not sustained. You have the way that the text is enunciated, and Elgar is really second to none in the kind of level of detail he goes into. He leaves nothing to chance. In that sense, you could say it's quite restrictive for the interpreters, because we feel like we're just having to follow all the rules. It's not quite as bad as that, because yes, my main job is to be faithful to what Elgar was trying to convey, and therefore make sure I have noticed everything that's in the score and try and encourage everybody to put it into effect. But there is still leeway. If you do have tempo fluctuations, you can have your own personal take on the precise contours of them. The way that the text is enunciated, there are different things you can bring out. There are different ways you can sort of emphasize the text.
Right.
So there's a little bit of leeway, but it's not like, for example, conducting Baroque music, where the score has very little in it apart from the notes, and it's really almost part of the creative process to be putting a performance together. You can make lots of decisions which aren't indicated by the score at all.
Do you feel like Elgar's sort of sitting on your shoulder, telling you exactly how he wants things to be done?
Yes, but I don't find that a malevolent thing.
He's an angel, not a devil.
He's an angel, yeah. It's a sort of spirit, I don't mean that with a capital S, but there's a sort of a feel to the music. It's got a charisma to it, and I suppose it's not alien to me because I grew up with it. But I've been fascinated recently to see performances of Elgar by, for example, Japanese conductors who obviously weren't brought up with it in the same way, and yet respond in just as I do to the power of the music, and bring out performances which are full of passion, energy, and they really understand the music. So I don't think it's a specifically English thing in that sense.
No, it does have those, as you said before, really universal feel to it, that it's something that the themes that he's talking about, the themes that he's writing about are so human, and his humanity seems to come through a lot as well in the music. I think he was someone who had some doubts and insecurities, and perhaps that kind of control of the manuscript and that desperation to be understood, like what he wanted to say. I wonder if it comes from that.
I think that's possibly, there's a lot of truth in that. Elgar, as a Catholic in Victorian and Edwardian England, was an outsider, and he felt it. And also because he was from relatively humble beginnings, unlike some of his contemporaries like Stanford and Parry, who were perhaps from more within the establishment and perhaps a little better off in their economic beginnings. He really felt like an outsider, and maybe you could say he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, was inclined to overreact if he felt slighted or excluded. But you can understand why. Nowadays, we all hope that we don't have that same sort of exclusion. But the Catholic Emancipation Act was only passed in, I think, the 1830s, and had a gradually over the decades had quite an impact on how it was to be a Catholic in England or the UK. But yes, Elgar was very aware of that. And so maybe he had to try really hard to put across, what he wanted to say in a way which would be acceptable to the predominantly Anglican culture of choral music in England. And he spent a lot of his life, at the Three Choirs Festival, which is based in 3 Anglican cathedrals in the centre of England. So it was kind of going into a foreign territory for him in a way.
As we've discussed, the manuscript is known for its expressive detail. What do you find particularly interesting about his markings, or what do you find revealing about them?
Well, I think a little bit, again, linking it with his personality, this dual fact, that the music is never really staying still. It's never resting. It's always kind of changing somehow on the go, moving around, and full of lots and lots of details. I feel it reflects his personality as someone who himself was maybe quite nervous disposition. If you look at film footage of him, there is some, and it's trust me, it's moving at the right speed. It's not like those old black and white films that are sort of going too quick. If you see him walking around in his garden, he's walking in quite a sort of agitated way. He liked this image of the Edwardian gentleman, with the moustache and everything. But that wasn't really his personality. That was an affectation. He was nervous, anxious, wanting to sort of achieve, to do good, to achieve something. And I think that's clear in the music, the way that it operates. But the other thing, all this attention to detail speaks to me of a person who was actually interested in a great deal of different things in life. So, he wrote music, but throughout his life he had many different interests, some of which are fascinating. I mean, he was an amateur chemist. He liked conducting experiments in the garden shed, basically.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Occasionally there were explosions and the neighbours didn't like it. He enjoyed cycling. People may know that. Cycled all over his local area.
There is a statue of him, isn't there, with his bicycle?
In Hereford, outside the cathedral, that's right. And he I discovered this morning actually, he enjoyed watching football and supported Wolverhampton Wanderers. He liked billiards, and when he was setting up home in a house of his called the Firs, which is one of the houses that he and his wife lived in, he ordered and had made a billiard table to have in the house. He enjoyed drawing little cartoons, very amusing things, which in his correspondence with various people, these cartoons crop up, little caricatures of him. He didn't take himself too seriously, actually. He drew cartoons of himself on his bike or whatever. So he was interested in a lot of things. He tried trades. He tried selling potatoes, selling coal, all sort of things when he was trying to make money,
Yeah.
to make ends meet. So a man of looking in many directions, you know, and taking.
And do you feel like that
detail.
plays out in
Well, I
the
think
score?
At the very least, there's never a dull moment.
Yeah,
even
true.
in the music, which is very slow and quiet, you always have. Well, I always have this impression that everything's very full of exactly what it needs. There's a wonderful passage at the beginning of part 2 of Gerontius where he has died, his soul has gone into the next phase of its adventure, and there's a beautifully quiet, calm passage. He sort of wakes up, as it were, and feels refreshed. The music is very simple. There's none of the churning sort of anxiety of other parts of the piece. But you just sense it's absolutely everything is full of what it needs to have at that moment, you know. Then, of course, you have the great sort of cataclysmic episodes of music where his attention to detail and his ability to contain many, many things in his mind is quite evident in the way the music's put together, you know.
So, can you tell me a little bit about Elgar's style in Gerontius particularly, and whether or not there are parts of it that stand out as particularly powerful to you? Or
yes, well, I think it's helpful to think of Gerontius as being a kind of Wagnerian opera.
Wow.
Elgar went to Bayreuth a few times and heard Wagner's operas there, and brought back a great deal of that Germanic influence into his own composition, particularly as he got older and matured a little bit. By the time he got to Gerontius, which was 1900, he'd absorbed it and integrated it thoroughly. So in Wagnerian opera, you get these themes which represent certain things, sometimes people, sometimes ideas, sometimes emotions, you know, fate, the dragon, the gold, whatever. And in Gerontius, you have exactly the same sort of thing. You have a motif which expresses prayer, sleep, judgment, all that kind of thing, all the different aspects of his journey. And of course, the characters like the demons and the angels. And I think that's a helpful way to think of it. So that's very evident in the music. And if anyone's listening to Gerontius who knows a bit of Wagner, I think they will hear the influence. And the harmony is quite sort of stringent sometimes. Chromaticism is the musical term for harmony, which kind of slithers around and creates this sense of sort of being unsettled and all that. And that's a very, very Wagnerian thing. The great soaring melodies, which particularly the soloist, but sometimes the choir as well, are given to sing, could well go on a stage. And then, of course, there's the actual drama, you know, the events. There's Gerontius on his deathbed. He dies. The priest recites a prayer. Gerontius, the soul, wakes up, meets an angel. They encounter the demons. Then the angels in heaven singing praise to God. And then the big event, Gerontius meets God and then is taken to purgatory to be healed and purged and made ready for heaven after that. And Elgar puts a real dramatic sensitivity and sometimes explosiveness into these events. So it is a bit like watching an opera, but it's not staged.
Yes. Yeah.
But it has all those sort of elements to it, and they're very striking. And that's one of the things that makes it what it is.
Yeah. What do you think about that moment where he meets the creator? Because I think there's a little bit of history around that, isn't there, about what he decided to do with it? And
yes. Well, Newman's poem, which he uses, refers to this moment where the soul meets God, but doesn't describe it. And Elgar initially was very, very keen that we, the audience, shouldn't be part of that. It's like a private moment between the soul and God. He meets God, but we don't. And so in his original version, basically that's what happens. The angel says, he says, I'm going to meet my judge. The angel says, words to the effect of "everything's okay," and then Gerontius, we see his reaction to having seen God, but we don't see the moment itself. And Elgar took a lot of persuading by Jaeger at Novello, who was his sort of very much an encouraging friend and advisor on all matters to do with the publication of his works and the composition of them. Jaeger realized that was a dramatic mistake to leave that out. That the reaction of the soul is inexplicable unless we somehow are privy to what caused it.
Yeah.
And eventually, after much nagging, Elgar gave in, and he produced this absolutely stunning instrumental interlude, which uses as its basis the theme of judgment, which appears right at the beginning of the whole work in bar 1. Comes back at this point, and that theme of judgment builds up to this shattering moment where one chord is played by the whole orchestra, and Elgar instructs that for one brief second the whole orchestra should exert its fullest force. That's what his phrase is. So every instrument is playing as loud as possible, but only for so much. So it's like a blinding flash, seeing God. And then the reaction of the soul makes sense.
Yes.
Because we've been, introduced to what actually happened in that place. So, and that is one of the things but for me, it's the emotional heart of the work, really. Everything leads up to it, and everything after leads away from it. So I'm aware of the responsibility of getting that moment right. But I'm also very, very excited. I think that the prelude itself at the beginning is a wonderful piece of orchestral music, which summarizes a lot of the themes that, particularly in part 1, they're sort of brought all together in the prelude. The Demons anyone would enjoy the Demons
Absolutely.
chorus.
Can't not enjoy it.
Thrilling. And the other big chorus, which is also in part 2, is where the angels around God are praising God. And the text is a hymn that many people might know, Praise to the Holiest in the Heights. When we sing it in church, there might be 3 or 4 verses. Newman has lots and lots of verses. Elgar left some of them out. But the basic text is that text. And he has this is virtuosic way of, from the very faintest beginnings that you can hardly hear this singing, these songs of praise, draws closer and closer and closer until the soul is sort of, as it were, traveling through the praise towards God. And then Elgar does this incredible thing, which he causes the music gradually to accelerate. It's like a plane taking off. The music accelerates, and so the notes get faster and faster, and then suddenly they're sort of absorbed into a new pace, where everything it's like you sort of come out into a new speed, but then that speed gets faster and faster, and then that's absorbed, and then you get faster and faster. So when you're conducting it and singing it, you just have this amazing feeling of being sort of led forward through, speed of sound, speed of light, speed of whatever, as you get closer and closer to God. And it's the way it's composed it's thrilling. I mean, the techniques behind it are very impressive, but just the impact on the emotions as the music's drawing us on is quite unique, I think.
Yeah, really, as a performer, it has a huge impact, doesn't it, on
Yes.
on you physically to be in that space.
Yes.
So, Steve, just to finish off, can you give me 3 things that you are particularly excited about for this performance?
So the first thing I'm sure people have understood from the way I've been talking is the music itself. Elgar was the greatest English composer since Purcell in the 17th century. He really brought English music back into the mainstream of European classical music, and it's England's greatest composer of the time at his absolute peak. So that's the first thing I'm very excited about.
Okay.
I'm also delighted that we're collaborating with Chepstow Choral Society on this, and they've been so helpful and are going to be a great blessing to us in producing the kind of sound we need to make.
We are all very excited about that.
Yeah.
It's great.
Similarly, having the chance to get the Regency Sinfonia along to play with us, and our excellent 3 soloists. There's a mezzo soprano, a tenor, and a bass soloist, and they are all fabulous soloists. I've worked with them before, and I know they will be marvellous.
They will. I think Susan Mars and Andrew Henley were with us for
the Rossini.
Rossini, yeah,
that's right. So
and did an amazing job on that. So we're very excited to welcome them back.
And Alex Jones, a wonderful bass soloist. And how many things is that? But I mean,
we'll say 2. Do one more.
So, well, I'd just like to say that Monmouth Choral Society, as ever, have thrown themselves heart and soul into this piece, and I'm so excited that we're able to put it on, thanks to actually a generous financial donation from one of our members. So I'm really looking forward to November the 22nd, St. Cecilia's Day, aptly enough, the patron saint of music, when we'll be able to perform this, all of us together.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time, Steve.
You're very welcome.
And we'll see you on the 22nd. A huge thank you to Stephen Kings for his time and insights into this wonderful work. Please do come and join us on the 22nd of November at the Blake Theatre, Monmouth. Tickets are now available from the box office. You can book online by visiting theblaketheatre.org/events. If you'd like to know more about joining the Choral Society, you can find all our information on our website, monmouthchoralsociety.co.uk.